Hi guys, here's a recap of writing polynomials in standard form. We started with a warm-up review of, whoops, not what I meant to do, of graphing polynomials. This is one of the skills you're going to need to be able to do on your quiz on your test on Friday. So you look at your factors, x plus 4 to the third, x, and x minus 5 to the second. So the root associated with x plus 4 to the third is going to be negative 4, so we put that there. And because of this 3, that is a flat root. For questions on that, see AA3-2. The next factor is our x, which means we have a root at 0, and that is a crossing root because it has no exponent. And the last one, the x minus 5 squared, so that root is positive 5, and that is going to be a bouncing root because of the even exponent. We also know that this has a negative orientation, and so that means that it's going to end down. So if I start with my arrow pointing down on the right side and just go backwards, bounce it off at 5. I'm just going to cross. Ooh, that was bad. Let's try that again. So bounce it. Good Lord. One last time, then I don't care how much I screwed up. Bounce at 5. Cross through. Got to turn it around to come back down. Go flat at negative 4. And that is the sketch of our polynomial. For your test on Friday, you need to be able to do both graphing it based on the equation given and also come up with the equation based on the graph. Just an FYI, this 2 here doesn't really matter to us. It's going to make your graph go higher and lower, but since we don't really care what's happening on the y-axis, that's not really the concern. What we do care about is that it's crossing at the x-intercepts that it's supposed to, and it's the type of route that it's supposed to be, crossing, flat, and bouncing. So, finding the exact equation, this gives us an x and a y. So if we write our initial equation, our basic equation, the a we don't know. If we have a bouncing root at negative 2, that's going to be x plus 2 squared, or some other even number, and a flat root at 3, so that's going to be x minus 3 to the third, or some other odd. I would use 2 and 3 in those cases. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take out the x's, and I'm going to put in 2. Then I'm going to take out y, and I'm going to put in the 8. And then I'm going to simplify and solve, and this was in AA3-3, what we did last class. So we've got 4 squared times negative 1 to the third. So 8 equals a times 16 times negative 1. So 8 equals a times negative 16. Divide both sides by negative 16. And that reduces to negative 1/2. So negative 1/2 times x plus 2 squared times x minus 3 to the third. So that's my exact equation. That's the other new skill that you're going to be tested on Friday. One of the things I want to review is how to multiply something like this. It's important to note that you can multiply in any direction. So what we can also do is expand this out to be 4 times 2. Actually, I'm not going to jump there. Hang on. So 4 times x, and then 2 times x times x times x. So this x times x, that's our x to the second. X times x times x, that's our x to the third. And now I can just swap my order here. So what I really have is 4 times 2 times x times x times x times x times x. So if I just look at my coefficients, 4 times 2 is 8. X times x times x times x times x is x to the 5th. So this is one of the exponent laws that we have when you multiply things with the same base. So for example, x to the a times x to the b you add those exponents, so x to the a plus b. Coefficients, you just multiply or do whatever you need to do with them. All right, so writing these in standard form, we're multiplying them out. I'm going to use the box because it's going to be easier. If you're watching this video for the first time, I would suggest that you pause it and try to do these by yourself, and then unpause and go over them. So x squared, 6x, negative 8x, and negative 48. So basically what I'm doing here is x times 6 to get that 6x, 6 times negative 8 to get the negative 48, x times x for my x squared, and x times negative 8 for my 8x. Then I need to write it out, combining my like terms, which are often, but not always, in diagonal corners. So x squared minus 2x minus 48. And I get that negative 2 from the 6x and the negative 8x. All right, so the other one, there's two ways you can go about this. You can multiply out your binomials. So you can take your x plus 5 times your x minus 6 and put those in the box. And then you can apply the 4. You can distribute the 4 into the whole thing when you're done. Or you can distribute the 4 to start. So 4x plus 20. Then multiply that 4x plus 20 times the x minus 6. Sorry, this is getting messy. So 4x plus 20, x minus 6. 4x times x is 4x squared. 20 times x is 20x. 4x times negative 6 is negative 24x. And 20 times negative 6 is negative 120. I combine my like terms, 20x and negative 24x. Always put your highest exponent first, so 4x squared minus 4x minus 120. Stretching that thinking a little bit further, again, I would pause this if you're watching this for the first time, and then finish it off. So what I'm going to do starting is to get rid of that first 2, put that in the parentheses, so 2x plus 10, and then x squared plus 6x minus 10. And then instead of making a 2 by 2, I'm going to make a 2 by 3. I'm going to put my binomial, 2x plus 10, on one side, and my trinomial, x squared plus 6x minus 10. Several people did this without the boxes. They did it with the kind of extended distribution. The only thing I'll say about that is that's where I saw the most mistakes out of my 5 classes, so just keep that in mind. If you don't like the boxes, you don't have to use them, but there's a lot more to keep track of. 2x times x squared is 2x to the third. 10 times x squared is 10x squared. 2x times 6x is 12x squared. 10 times 6x is 60x. 2x times negative 10 is negative 20x. And 10 times negative 10 is 100. Again, I'm going to combine my like terms. And then write it out with my highest exponent first. So 2x to the third, 10x plus 12x, 10x squared plus 12x squared is 22x squared. Remember, when you're combining, when you're adding or subtracting, the exponents don't change. And then 60x plus negative 20x is positive 40x. And then minus 100. And that's my standard form for that one. Next up is a bit more complicated. What I would do for this one is multiply the first 2 out and get a trinomial, multiply the second 2 out and get a trinomial, and then multiply your 2 trinomials together. So pause, give that a try. I'm not going to use the boxes to multiply the trinomials simply because I'm going to run out of space if I do that. So this ends up being 3x squared minus 16x because I have negative 18x and 2x. and then minus 12, so that gives me one of them. My other one is going to be 8x plus 4x minus 32. That's because I have negative 4x and an 8x for my middle terms. So then I have a trinomial times a trinomial. One of the common mistakes people made here was wanting to add these just to combine your like terms, and that's not what you want to do. So if you create a 3 by 3 box, and actually I'm going to need to move that over. And this, especially when you're talking about trying to keep track of all your stuff, much easier if you just use the boxes, especially if you find that you made a mistake. So I'm going to put 3x squared minus 16x minus 12, and then x squared plus 4x minus 32. So as I was saying, if you do make a mistake with the box, it's a lot easier to find and fix. All right, so 3x squared times x squared is 3x to the 4th. Negative 16x times x squared is negative 16x to the 3rd. Negative 12x to the 2nd. 12x to the 3rd. 4x times negative 16x is negative 64x squared. Negative 12 times 4x is negative 48x. 3 times negative 32, 3x squared times negative 32 is negative 96x squared. Negative 32 times negative 16 is 512x, and then negative 32 times 12 is 384. So then I'm going to combine my like terms. So I've got ax to the thirds. I'm going to combine those. I've got all my x to the seconds. As I said before, these are often just diagonally to each other, but not always. And then I've got my x's, and I'm going to combine those. Start with my highest exponent, so 3x to the 4th. Negative 16x to the 3rd plus 12x to the 3rd is negative 4x to the 3rd. Negative 12 plus negative 64 plus negative 96 is negative 172 x to the 2nd. Negative 48x plus 512 is plus 464x. And then I just need to bring over that plus 384. And that's my standard form. One of the reasons you may want to be more comfortable with the boxes, the next thing we're doing is factoring, and that is much easier, in my personal opinion, to do with the boxes. So next class, we're going to be factoring. The class after that, we are going to be working on the test. So old skills, finding the exact equations for the parent graphs and completing the square to find the vertex. Those are the old ones that we took before. And then the new ones will be the basic polynomial equations and the exact polynomial equations. So that's AA3-2 and AA3-3. So make sure you've finished up all those worksheets and you've taken a look at them again, and make sure you're comfortable. So have a good one. I will see you guys later.